Over the last two Sundays, we've taken the opportunity to look at the Gospel of John in chapter 11 and chapter 14. And in those two chapters, we find two of the I am sayings of Jesus. In John chapter 11, I am the resurrection. And in John chapter 14, I am the way and the truth and the life. So today, I want to move us on to the last I am saying in the Gospel of John. It's found in chapter 15, in part of the continuing discourse that Jesus has with his disciples just after what we would call the Last Supper recorded in the Gospel of John. And in John chapter 15, verse 1, Jesus says, I am the true vine. And in a couple verses later, Jesus will say, abide with me. I want to take the time to look at just one of those words first. And the first I want to look at is abide. Abide is an old-fashioned word. It's not a word we use a lot today. Highway motel signs do not say, abide with us tonight. Baseball announcers don't say, one hit, a walk, and two abiding on base. It does seem the word abide belongs to another time. But if we look at the word, we begin to understand that to abide has to do with perseverance, with sticking through it, with staying with something. No wonder the term is rare, because what it means is rare anytime. How often do we stick with something? Anything. Jesus says, abide in me. He speaks those words, interestingly enough, on the night that he will be betrayed and arrested. Surrounding him are the 12 disciples who would each one fail him in his greatest hour of need. The last thing they did that night was abide in Jesus, stay with him when he needed them the most. I think maybe it's here that we find our kinship with the disciples, because I think sometimes, if we're honest, we have our own difficulty in abiding with Christ and staying with Christ as he leads us in this journey. And I think that's especially true in this season of Lent. It's easy for us to want to move quickly to Easter without taking the time to journey through all that Lent holds. But I think if we do, to use the word of this passage, abide with Jesus through this time, we'll discover something about what it means to be followers of Jesus and what it means to be his people. So we have that word, abide. But then let's look at the other word. Jesus said, I am the vine. And I think that gives us a very beautiful image of who Jesus is. It tells us that Jesus becomes the source of strength for all that we do. It's an image that Jesus and the disciples would have known well, because throughout the Old Testament, the image of the vine, the vineyard, is used to talk about how God takes care of God's people. I am the vine, Jesus says, and we're to remain in him. I learned something recently about growing vines and what takes place as they grow that I think will shed some light on the statement Jesus makes when Jesus says, I am the vine. It seems that when the vine grows, it grows straight down toward earth. Gravity has its effect, and it pulls the vine down to the earth. And as it does, and the vine gets down to the ground, it gets dirty. If it rains, it gets muddy. It becomes useless and easily diseased. And so what do? Well, you don't cut it off. A real vineyard, someone who understands how these things work, goes through the vines with a basin of water and washes the vines. And then the vine is either put upon a trellis and tied up so that it can grow. And in a little while, after it's all clean and it's been placed back up where it can grow, it begins to flourish, and before long, it's growing grapes. And that's the picture I think Jesus is trying to get across here. He's saying, when you find yourself dragged down by life, let the Lord pick you up, wash you clean, and help you to be the person God has called you to be. The story is told of a man who moved outside of town in a place that he was attracted to because of the many vineyards and how beautiful they were on the hillside. One day he came home and he found that his neighbor who owned the vineyards was going through those vines and cutting them here and there. The man went to his neighbor and asked, "What are you doing?" And the man said, "Well, you have two choices when it comes to vines. You can grow big leaves or you can grow big grapes. Make your choice." And I think that's true of life. To think about abiding in Jesus is to think about living to the potential God has given us. It's about being the people God has called us to be. It's about learning to love others in the same way that Jesus loved us. Jesus said, "I am the vine. Abide in me." I hope as we continue our journey through Lent that we'll be able to do just that. Abide in Jesus so that we can be the people God has created us to be. I look forward to being with you in worship at the church called Emmanuel this Sunday. I hope that you'll take the time to be with us. If you can't be with us in person, I hope you'll take the time to watch the live stream on Facebook. The church called Emmanuel is really a special place. And always in worship, I think we experience the presence of God. I look forward to seeing you this Sunday. May God bless you.